Welcome back to Mesa, Thailand. It is Wednesday, October 28th. And just yesterday afternoon, I started to think to myself that I could use a bit of exercise. So I started coming up with this crazy idea of maybe, just maybe in Thailand, going for a little bike ride. I wouldn't normally call going on a bike ride crazy. I've gone on a few bike trips in my day, but it's a little bit crazy right now because my touring bike and all of my touring equipment, which I already own, is all across the border in Malaysia, and I can't get it. So for me to go on a bike ride here in Malaysia would mean basically buying new gear. I would have to buy a new bike, some kind of pannier bags, a basic set of tools, lights. I'd basically have to outfit a new bike to go on this bike trip, and that doesn't make a lot of financial sense. If I want to go somewhere in Thailand, the obvious and the more sensible thing to do would be just to load up my backpack and go and travel by normal means, be that bus or train or plane or hitchhiking or walking, whatever that is. But I do like to ride a bike, and once I get an idea in my head, I tend to get a little bit obsessive about it. So ever since I started thinking about going on a bike ride here, I just can't get the thought out of my head. So at least I'm going to look into it to an extent. I'm going to head out into some of the bike shops here in Mesa, just get a sense of what kind of bikes are available, how much it might cost. And then at least if the prices are astronomical by the time you add everything up, then I can give up on the idea. But if I don't look into it at least a little bit, then I'll never get the idea out of my head. For a city where I rarely see a person on a bicycle, there are a surprising number of bike shops here. On the days that I've headed out to immigration, for example, down at the Friendship Bridge, I think I pass a half dozen big ones, a half dozen at least, though I'm pretty sure none of those shops would have a bike that I would think of as suitable for someone my height and for even basic bike touring. The bikes in those shops might be economical, they might be good value, but I don't know if there'd be anything in stock there that I could really use to go into the mountains here and to carry my weight and the weight of water and a little bit of gear. The bikes that I do see around town all basically are of this style. And these would not be that expensive to buy, but I don't think they would last very long on the road. You would spend all your time fixing them, fixing flat tires, and dealing with breakdowns, I think, if you manage to cover any distance at all. Other than those regular shops, Mesa is quite an unusual town in many ways. As I've discovered, there are far more coffee shops here than any small city has a right to have, and a lot of quite interesting restaurants. And it just happens to have two specialty bike shops that specialize in touring bikes. One of them is up on the main street near my guest house. I already dropped by there and I had a little bit of a chat with the owner. Really interesting guy, really nice guy. He does not speak English, unfortunately, so he talked at me a mile a minute in Thai, and I really didn't know anything that he was saying. But he called up some bikes on his smartphone, and he started showing me some options. We established early on that I was looking for some kind of a mountain bike hybrid touring setup. And we established early on that I didn't have a lot of money to spend. So he started looking for low-cost touring bike options for me that, he deals with the distributors, and he builds his own bikes there. He orders the parts and does custom builds for people. And if we were talking about a bike that I'd be using for months and months and months, and maybe even a year or two, then it would be fine. I could seriously consider one of those bikes. But when I'm thinking about using it for 2 or 3 months at the most, before maybe I can be reunited with my own bike, then even the cost of a low-budget touring bike can be quite high. So I'll have to wait to hear back from him. He got my Facebook address, and he's going to do some research for me and then send me messages with some options for me. And one of the first barriers we ran into, of course, is that even with the bikes that he was considering and the frame sizes for those bikes, even the largest size is not really suitable for my frame. I think the largest frame he had, in terms of their specification, tops out for people who are like 181 centimeters tall. And again, I don't think in terms of centimeters, but I did a calculation, and I think I'm about 185 centimeters. So the bike would probably be okay, but I'd probably be better off with a slightly larger frame than what he can provide. One funny thing is that with my impeccable timing, I decided to go to that bike shop at the exact minute that the owner was closing and leaving. And that's particularly funny because I always do that. I always end up going to places when they're closed or just about to close. But in this case, I thought ahead. I thought I should wait until after lunch, because I always have the bad habit of going places at lunchtime. And in Southeast Asia, just Asia in general, lunch is sacrosanct. Nothing stops lunch. So people go have lunch at lunchtime. That's not the best time to go shopping. So I waited until about 2:30 to go there. And just as I got there, he was pulling down the door and locking up because he said it was lunchtime. So he was leaving for lunch at 10:30. So despite my best efforts, I still managed to show up at exactly lunchtime. And there's one other quite fancy or quite specialized touring bike shop here, I believe. I came here one time before, and I believe it's located on the second floor of this kind of hardware store over there. So I'm gonna go inside and see if they're open. I'm now at the front of the other bicycle shop. And this one is a really hard one to find. The last time I tried to come here, it took me forever to locate it. And then I thought I could remember it, but this time when I tried to come back, I still couldn't remember because it has no signs of any kind. It's on the second floor above this shop behind me. It wasn't at the other shop. I was asking the man there about the bicycle shop upstairs, and he looked at me like I was out of my mind. And here I came in, and again, I just asked about the bicycle shop, and they told me that the guy who runs it is sleeping. He's sleeping. And then they sort of looked at me like, what can we do? He's sleeping. So I just turned around to leave. But then as I was walking along the street, someone came running after me and says, oh, come back. We will see if he's awake. So I'm waiting to see if the bike master will awaken. Now, I don't think I'll end up being able to get a bike from him because he specializes in these bikes. This is his. You can see it's a Surly, and a touring bike built on a Surly frame, brand new right now, would actually be a much nicer and more expensive bike than the one that I currently have. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to pick one up. It would be a lot more money than I've been thinking about spending. My idea, to be honest, was simply to pick up a used bike, something simple and easy, something not very expensive. I know of a few people over the years have done this, where they were just backpacking around and then they got this idea to ride a bike, and they would just pick up a local department store bike secondhand, and then they take their backpack and they strap it onto the back rack, and then away they go. And they tend to have a pretty good journey despite that. But it's not something I would really like to do, because I've had experience even with good department store style bikes. I tried to take one touring one time, and it just fell apart almost instantly, and it was nothing but trouble from beginning to end. So if at all possible, I would like to, if I do go off on this crazy bike trip, I wouldn't mind have something a little bit better than your basic street bike, something a little bit tougher, a little bit more durable. I just realized that this van is part of this bike shop, because the name of the place is Bike Signature, and there you can see it emblazoned on the back of on the side of the van. So this is his bike shop's van. Quite impressive. I like their handcrafted safety sign here. You're safe, we're safe, okay? Please wear a mask. And we have some happy people there, all masked up. Well, I had a nice chat with the owner of Bike Signature. He came downstairs and we sat on the front steps of his shop for a while and talked about bikes. Unfortunately, as I suspected, when you're dealing with real touring bikes designed for touring, you quickly get to a price that is way outside of anything that is reasonable for me at this point. He specializes in touring bikes built on a Surly frame, and just your basic bike, just the starting point would be something like $1,200 US by the time you get everything on there, and then you still have to buy pannier bags and other accessories like that. So it ends up being quite an expensive proposition. He also deals in a Chinese brand, and he told me the name of the brand, but I've forgotten what they're called already, and they come in at about half of that. So a starting point for a touring bike built on this Chinese frame with Chinese components, I assume, came to 20,000 baht, something like $600 or $700 US. And then you're looking at all the accessories on top of that to really go touring. So it's kind of an unrealistic option for me at this point. Doesn't make a lot of sense. On the positive side, he did give me the name of another bike shop. I mentioned that there are a whole bunch of them on the road heading out towards the immigration office. And the place, he said, had a lot of used bikes, all different styles, different sizes. He showed me the location on Google Maps, and it's one of the shops that I know about on the way out to immigration. So I've never gone into that shop. I just have walked by it a few times. So I guess the next stage in this cycling journey is to go to that shop and see what they have. I think I'll do that tomorrow. Head out there when I'm nice and fresh. The thing is that a pretty healthy budget for just going to the north and traveling around would probably be 500 baht a day, which would amount to 15,000 baht per month. And that's just for hotel and food and things like that. And if I'm spending 50,000 baht on just the bicycle to get started, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. One thing that always strikes me when I head out on these failed shopping expeditions is that the owner of the store or the clerk asking the customer what their budget is always seems like a really bad idea, because it stops the transaction in its tracks. The owner of Bike Signature came down to talk to me, and I explained to him my situation, that I don't really want to spend a lot of money on a touring bike, so I'm just out looking to see what my options are. And then he says, well, what is your budget? And I don't have a budget. I don't know what my budget is. What I want to see are his bikes. I want to take a look at what he has. And then if he wants to sell me a bike, which I assume he does, since that's his business, it seems like it's a much better strategy for him at that point to say, yeah, come on up to the store. Let me show you what we have. And then he can run me through the options. Okay, here's a basic Surly. This runs this much money. We also make this Chinese brand. I can put it together, you know, kind of in this price range, and just get me in the shop, get me looking at his bikes, feeling comfortable, feeling good about being there. And then chances are I'll end up buying something from him. But when he says, you know, what is your budget? I don't know what to say. I don't really have a budget. Then the whole transaction just comes to a screeching halt. And here I am walking down the street, and I never even went up into his shop at any point. There was never an opportunity to go into his place. He never said, hey, come on upstairs, take a look at the bikes. Here, have a cup of tea, let's chat, you know. Nothing like that. One thing I miss from Malaysia is vanilla Coke. I don't know why, but they don't sell vanilla Coke in Thailand. At least they don't sell it here in Mae Sot. In all the 7-Elevens I've been into, they sell Coke and Coke Zero, and then they sell something called Orange Coke. I don't even know what Orange Coke is, but no vanilla Coke, which is my favorite. I know I was thinking about this because I just popped into 7-Eleven to buy myself a cold Coke as a treat, and I was looking at all my options, and none of them were appealing, because you've got Coke Zero, which is okay, and then Coke Orange, which I don't know what it is. No vanilla Coke. So that leaves me with regular Coke, but they do two things with the packaging. It's kind of weird to notice things like this, but I tend to notice details, I guess. For one thing, it doesn't say original Coke. To me, original Coke has a really good sound to it. Like, I'm getting the original. I'm getting the traditional Coke that I love, that I've grown up with. It doesn't say original Coke. It says original flavor. And it's weird to think of something as having a flavor, because in my mind that has the image of adding something to it. Like, you have a product, there it is, it's finished, you're about to put it in the bottle, but then you add the flavor to it. Like, the flavor is not an organic part of the drink. It's something that you take out of a test tube. Now let's add the flavor, and you pour in the flavor. And that just doesn't have a very enticing feel to it. If I see two drinks and one says original Coke and one says original flavor, I will go for the original Coke. It just sounds better to me. And on top of that, all of the original flavor cans and bottles all had in small letters down at the bottom, less sugar. And I hate that. If I'm buying a bottle or a can of Coke, I don't care about the sugar. That's why I'm buying it, because it's a sweet, sugary, delicious drink. So don't tell me I'm getting less of what makes it amazing. Don't tell me less sugar. If I wanted less sugar, I would buy something else, or I would buy Coke Zero that has no sugar. But I guess that's marketing. The marketing geniuses at Coke decided that people are interested in healthy Coke. And if they say less sugar, they will sell more of them, which to me is completely backwards thinking. But I see that everywhere. And again, it's part of this trend I've seen over my lifetime, almost like a pendulum swinging from left to right, where something will be in favor and all the doctors will say, this is good for you, but this is bad for you. But then wait 5 years and now the pendulum is swung to the other side. Now that is bad for you and this is good for you. They change their mind all the time. So in the 7-Eleven, I occasionally also like to buy a little cup of yogurt. And that drives me crazy because I just want yogurt. I want the full yogurt. I want milk with 100% cream. I want everything. Don't take stuff out of my drinks. Leave it all in there. Hey there, puppy. Hi. Hello. How are you? Yeah. Don't be gentle. Be gentle, don't bite me. Yeah, don't bite me. Don't bite me. Yeah. I'll see you. So I'm looking at all my selections of yogurt, and one of them is 0% fat. They all have big zeros on them everywhere. And I don't want the yogurts with zeros on them. I want the zeros, I want the yogurts that are packed with all the yogurt goodness. Don't take anything out. I want you to leave everything in. I don't want yogurt 0. I want yogurt 125%. Add more. That's what I want. But that is not the mood of the day. Yeah, recording now. Thank you.